This is going to be a quick little tutorial on how to build the center part. I actually did one earlier, but it didn't come out all that great, so I'm going to spend some time talking about it and setting it up and hopefully go through it so it's easy to understand. Now, as you know, we're going to start building our parts probably on Monday using OnShape. But if you guys got time and you want to get started on a part, whether it be an Automoblox part like we are doing with this one, I'm doing the orange car, and you can see the part that we're building right there, or whatever part you decide to build, you can, whether it's a pencil or a glue stick or whatever you're reverse engineering, the same steps start, and you'll be learning a lot about the different processes for building any part in OnShape. So I'm going to get out of this one because this one's already done. As you can see, I've started a folder. Now, if you haven't already started a folder, you want to go to Create, Folder, and just call it your RE project. Sometimes I put my name at the end of it. That's a good idea. I already have one started. Matter of fact, when I click on it, you'll see that I have two parts already started for my Automoblox car. This one is the one we're going to be sharing or showing you how to build. So to start your new part, let's just say the first time you started a part, you're going to go Create, Document. And I'm going to call it, you can call it Part 1 if you want. Make sure you use all caps, right? Part 1. And we're going to call it Center or Car Center maybe. Up to you. Say OK. And you're ready to go. It looks like every other part you've ever started, right? Now, looking at my drawing, and I have all the dimensions on there. At least I hope I have them on there. They're not all there. I know that for sure. I probably have to go back and tweak it a little bit, but enough to get started anyway. I add a sketch to the front plane, just like we normally do, right? And as you know, I'm a big fan of just turning the visibility off from the other planes. You don't really need to see them all the time. Hit front, and we're going to start with a rectangle. I like to start at my origin, come out, and there she be. Notice I didn't care about the size, the width, the height, or anything right now. But now I'm looking at my dimensions. And the dimension says it looks like it's 1.75 wide. And if you look over here on the left side here, it's 0.815 or 0.85 tall. So let's add those dimensions. 1.75, 0.85. There we go. We're going to finish our sketch. Be our first extrusion. We're going to extrude this one back. I like to go back. You could go front, forward. It's up to you. The depth, in this case, it looks like a square. So it's 1.75 wide and 1.75 deep. And there we have our part. I do like OnShape, the fact that you don't have to hit save all the time. Matter of fact, I'm going to come down and just rename this Car Center. Remember, all caps, and if you do it this right, this is what actually comes up on your BOM or bill of materials. So that's the important part. If I set that up, and that's what I want to call it, that's what's going to come up. Now I'm going to put a sketch on the top. I could do it simply by hitting sketch and picking the top. And there we go. The other way I could do it, and I'm just going to hit undo on that, is I could pick the top. And when I pick the top, it turns orange. And then I could right click and say, I want a new sketch. I guess you've got to wonder which is easier. I don't really know. I guess whichever is faster for you. I'll make a couple circles. Notice I'm not really caring what the circles look like. By the way, we're doing the holes on the top. these two holes that hold the windshield on, they go in there. I already got the measurements for the holes. I do want to make sure my location dimensions are correct. That means how far is it back? What I like about these programs, though, if I don't know the measurement and I want it to be right in the center, I can just type in 1.75 divided by 2. It'll actually do the math for you. 0.875. The other important dimension is how far up it is. In this case, it's going to be 0.5. Okay. And then finally, these are our location dimensions, and this is our diameter, or actually size, and that's 0.4. So the first hole is all set. Now I could add a whole bunch of more dimensions, but now I'm going to start to use some of my other tools like equals. If I pick this and say I want it to be equal, then they become the same size. And if I change this, the other one changes too. The other thing I could do is say I want it to be vertical. Pick there and pick there, and now they're vertically aligned. They will not change. It saved it from dimensioning. Is that faster? It's a good question. Up to you, I guess. Now I'm going to pick there and there because I know this is an important dimension. This is 0.5. All the holes for the windshield are 0.5. The pegs that are going to go on the front are 0.5. The sockets on the back are going to be 0.5. It's important that they be very consistent because otherwise your car will not join together. Notice I just finished my sketch and I'm ready to go. I'm going to go extrude, remove, pick my 2 cylinders. And according to my dimensions, and I used my old paperclip method right here, I poked it down the hole, marked it, went back to my ruler or dial caliper, and I said it was going to be 0.6 deep. Boom. So now I have the holes for the top. Now you can do the peg on the front, or you can do the sockets on the back. Really doesn't matter. I'm going to start with the peg on the front. So I'm going to, like I showed you, notice when you pick the surface, it turns orange. And then I'm going to go add a new sketch. So now I got a sketch there. I like to look at it right straight on, so it makes it easier to see. I'm going to do a circle. Done. So to do the peg, and the peg is going to be a series of actually 4 cylinders. I know it's tough to see, but the first one's going to be really close and tight, and it's small. The second one goes all the way up 0.3. There's a little peg on the end, a little cylinder on the end, and then the last one is going to cut into it. So it's just a series of small circles or cylinders. Important that it be in the center, 0.5. Important that it be in the middle. We said it was what? 0.85 divided by 2, or 0.425. And then finally, we have the diameter, 0.3. Let me look at my notes here. Yep, 0.3. So I'm going to finish that sketch. Finish the sketch, extrude that, and it only comes out just the smallest amount, 0.03. See how small that is? That's the first little bit of a cylinder that comes right off from this face. Now I'm going to make another sketch on the end. Notice when I picked it, it turned orange. New sketch, and this time I'm going to draw another circle, and I'm going to make sure that that circle ends up being right in the center point, so the circles are concentric. If I didn't pick that center point, then you wouldn't have concentric circles, and you'd have to go back and dimension the location. Because I picked the same center point, it's going to have the same location, which makes sense. I had 0.25 or a quarter inch for this one. And we're going to bring this out, extrude 0.3. So now you can see I have two of the cylinders. The last one, I'm going to add a new sketch to the end of this. Notice I'm not even going to turn it around now. I'm just going to bring it up, put it right in the square. It's a little bigger. This cylinder happens to be in between the 0.3 and the 0.25, so it's going to be 0.275, which is right in the center. Finish my sketch, extrude. We're going to bring it out. So I'm going to pick this out, and I'm going to pick the outside rim so they're both out, and it only comes out just the smallest amount, 0.03. So you can see how small that is coming out from the front. So this one's extruding out. So the peg is this cylinder, that cylinder, and that cylinder. So right now I have 3 of the 4 cylinders. The last cylinder is right here. I put a sketch on the front of this. New sketch. I draw a cylinder here. This one's going to cut it away. This one's going to be my hole. Coming up, I'm going to say 0.2. 0.2 is what I ended up with. I'll extrude, remove this time. And this one's going to go back. Let me look at my notes, see how far back it goes. I have written down it goes back 0.5. And so we're getting there. The peg is hollow. So you can see what we're building. The peg is hollow on the inside. It goes in. Next thing is those little tabs. See how the tabs are cut away? Little grooves. Those are actually easier than they look. If I put a sketch on the front of that, boom, look at it right straight on. To make those grooves, we're going to use a rectangle, but this time we're going to use a center point rectangle. And then we're going to pick the same center we've been using and just extend it out. Notice it really doesn't matter how wide. The only thing that matters is how tall it's going to be cut out of there. So go back here and just boom, 0.04. Finish my sketch. And you're thinking, what is this doing? Well, now if I go back and go remove, extrude, remove, I pick this, I pick that. I mean, technically I could pick the whole thing. It's going to cut right into it. See that? But we're only going to go back 0.2. See how it just made that groove right up in there? That's what we were looking for. Gives that peg a little flex as it goes into the socket. Now to make it look better, just look. There are little things you can do to make it add and make it seem more unique. If you send in your peg and look like that, I think that's pretty good. I think it looks good. But to give it that little extra stuff, you got to realize that these are all having little fillet roundovers on them. 0.008 is what I used earlier. It worked pretty well. I was playing around with it. I wasn't sure what size to use. And I tried it on a couple of different pieces just to see what it looked like. And now all of a sudden the edges are all rounded, which give it a little more realistic view. And the other thing, if you look carefully at it, the bottom of the socket, I think, are rounded. So I'm going to round those bottom edges too. 0.02. Pick there. See how it rounds the bottom? We're doing a fillet. I'm going to pick on this side too. There. I'm going to pick the other corner, which is hard to get at, but just pick the edge. And then finally, the other corner is right there. Pick this edge. And it just round them over perfectly. So you get a little rounded corner. And there we have our pegs. Oops. Can't see them from this point of view, but you can over here. Now to make it look better, first of all, the part is just kind of a bland color. So maybe I'll go over here and go right click, edit appearance. I'm just editing the appearance. I'm not editing anything more than appearance. Maybe, yeah. It's supposed to be like a maple wood, so I'm gonna, maybe that's good. And then if you zoom into this and click on that, you're gonna be able to right click and say, I wanna edit the face. So I happen to be doing the orange one. So I'd pick the orange pegs. These are orange. Yours could be blue, you pick blue, but nice. Once I pick on that color, guess what? I can just pick everything. Boom, boom, boom. The hard part is to get all the different surfaces there. A lot of different little surfaces you got to pick up on. Pick, pick, pick. Sometimes I miss a few and I have to go back and add to them, which is fine. It's not a big deal. It just takes a little bit of time. Like I can see that one. There, I got that one. Now I'm going to flip over to the other side. Zoom in. I got that. Missed that. Missed that. I know I always miss the inside. And there we have the color. Looks pretty good. It really does look good. And when you have the color added, it really gives it definition, you know. Now, here's the key. Our part is symmetrical. That means it's exactly balanced, formal balance, right? This is the same part. This peg is the same peg over there. Same different distance away from the edge. So I'm going to put a plane in there. Plane. Instead of offset, I'm going to say I want a mid-plane. Mid-plane. And now what's cool about a mid-plane, you just pick one surface on this side. Then I'm going to move around. I'm going to pick the second surface, and it puts the plane right down through the middle. There's my plane. That's called a mid-plane plane. Check. Why is that important? As you can see over here, it's going to let me mirror stuff over. Here's my mirror. First thing it says, okay, we're going to mirror a feature, not a part. Mirror a part means you mirror the whole thing. We're just going to do one feature or several features. Matter of fact, as I'm looking at these features, there's our first one, second, third, fourth, fifth, fillets, that one. Don't pick the plane. You don't want to mirror the plane. So then I come over here and I say mirror plane, and I can either pick on the plane, and look, boom, pops right up. And you have the other one. Big time saver. Some people draw them both, but now that you know how to mirror it, it's a huge time saver. And that's true for anybody that has any part that looks symmetrical. Use that mirror. Saves time. I'm just going to change the coloring. I noticed I just select this one, edit my face appearance, and by doing that, means I can add to the orange. I'm just going to go in here and pick all the orange surfaces that I can see. If you pick it once, it turns orange. If you pick it again, it goes back to normal. So go back and just edit all those surfaces that you can see. And I'll flip it around like that. Sometimes that's in a way. I'll just move it over. Oops. Gotta get that. I know I have to get the bottom. And if I get that. That one there. That one there. Aha! I even missed it on this one. Go back and get that. Yeah, looks pretty good. Now I have two pegs. Now, normally, if I was using any other program, I said save, 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 make sure you save. But this automatically saves, so we don't have to worry about it. If you want to make it more realistic, notice these all have roundovers on them right there, roundover So I'm just going to add a round over to them. I'm pretty sure I measured it a couple times. 0.16 round over on the corners. So this is going to be the same fillet or the same round over that you're going to use for all your parts, not just this one. Just pick the edge and it rounds it over for you. And that's looking even better. Now we're going to do the socket pretty much the same way as we did the peg. I'm going to build one and then I'm going to mirror it over just because it's easier to do. Pick the back surface. Notice it highlights in orange. Right click, new sketch. Look at it from the right side. Going to draw a circle. I'm going to dimension it because I know it has to be 0.5 like the socket is. It's got to have the same center. It has to be the same distance down. We said it was 0.85 divided by 2. And then the diameter, 0.44. Now, interesting about the socket goes in, so we're going to be doing a lot of cutting. So we're going to go extrude, remove, pick the first one. This one goes in such a minute amount, 0.003. Very tiny. It just drops in below the surface, so it's a really small one. See, it's just barely going in. I'm going to select the surface that I just created, add a new sketch to that, and I'm going to do another circle. Now, this circle I'm going to do, notice I'm picking that center right there. Make it out. I don't care how big it is because I'm going to add that dimension as long as the circles are concentric. Let me go back and look at my dimensions here. I think it said it was 0.33. That's the dimension that I got using the inside dial caliper diameter measurement. Now this one only goes down, not that far. Boom. Cut, right? We're removing 0.33 at 0.06. This gives it a little recess. Then again, select that surface, right click, add a new sketch to that. We're going to do, this is the one that's going to cut deep for the everything to hold in. So this is the smaller one. Add a dimension there. Notice because they have all the same centers, you don't have to keep dimension those. 0.26. Now, as I look on my thing here, it looks like that one goes back pretty deep. 0.34. So I go remove 0.34. That's looking pretty good. The socket, that's where you're going to plug the peg in. If you notice, though, there's a little bit of a chamfer way inside there. Hard to see, but I'm going to make that chamfer right here 0.03, I believe it was. And you just like when you do a fillet, you just pick the corner and it chamfers that edge a little bit. Maybe 0.04. Let's see what that looks like. Too much. Yeah, it looks like it's too much. 0.035. Right up to that edge. That looks good. So when I look in it, there's this little recess, then straight down, then there's a chamfer down to the hole. Now I'm just going to right click, edit the ferrets, hit my orange, 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 orange. And the bottom of the pocket is also orange. And now if you look at it, you've got a socket. That wasn't too bad. Remember what we did with our mirror. Now if we want two of them, we go to mirror, I'm going to make sure I say feature, not part. I got to go back and see. Oh, there's my first extrusion. There's my second, third, and chamfer. Pick my mirror plane. I can pick it over here. And you end up with second socket. Look what a time saver that is. I'm going to pick on that, right click and say I want to edit that face. That allows me to do this. Go in and just pick all the same colors. I want to pick the bottom too. I always forget to pick that bottom. Check. And there you have it. So we have our pegs. We have our top holes for our windshield. We have the sockets in the back. Last but not least, you may notice there's a little groove right there. It's just one of those little details. It's a lot easier than it looks. You just put a sketch on this surface right here. New sketch. We got our front view. Now, to do this sketch, I'm going to do just a regular corner rectangle. Oop. And there we go. Done. All I'm doing is cutting a groove out, so it doesn't matter if it's the same length as the object or longer than the object. I have to add a couple dimensions. This one from here down, 0.16, same as the fillet. And the one from there to the bottom of it, I think it's only 0.18, 2/100ths of an inch groove. You can see it lines right up along there. Remove. You got to be able to pick that little groove. You could pick the whole thing if you wanted to, but you really don't have to, because as long as it goes to the edge, you'll be fine. It's funny how it will cut so far into it, but it'll cut right into your pegs if you wanted to. Oh, no, it's too high. So it's going to be a depth of 0.02 as well. And there we have a groove. That's all it did, that little groove right there. Looks good though. If I want one on the other side, I don't usually make another one. I just go back and go mirror, pick my extrusion. Oh, make sure you say feature. Then pick your extrusion. Then pick your mirror plane. Oh, see, make sure you don't put it in the plane into the feature. Make sure you pick the mirror plane when it's inside here, right? Say okay, and guess what? You got it on the other side. Last thing I usually do on this part is just go back and get rid of, I should say, turn the visibility off on this part right here. Click hide plane. And there you have it. That's the first part for your car. Looking pretty good.